Right now, Elon Musk is hopping about the country, spewing and tweeting political falsehoods and attacking FEMA while claiming his desire to help the hurricane victims with free Starlink access to the internet.
These were the bold statements made by Commissioner Gretchen Newsom, as she and others on the California Coastal Commission voted to deny more SpaceX rocket launches at Vanderberg. This is their response to the latest news that the Pentagon has overrode their decision and increased SpaceX's Falcon 9 launch to 100 launches per year. Well, they have kept silent. This is the best middle finger ever to Musk's most aggressive attackers, who have cited personal reasons for restricting the nation's defense interests. On the other hand, it's a huge victory for SpaceX and the Pentagon over bureaucratic red tape. So, what is the reason behind this success? What does this victory mean for SpaceX and the national interest? Find out everything in today's episode. As 2024 is coming to an end, SpaceX has been slowly setting its goals for 2025, with the latest revealing that there will be more than 180 Falcon launches in the next year. This is truly an incredible number compared to that in 2024, showing that the looser regulation in Trump's second term will facilitate space activities. The national security strategies will also be enhanced under Trump's 2.0, which is highlighted in a sweeping policy agenda known as Project 2025, led by the Conservative Heritage Foundation. This suggests that Trump's return could see a pivot toward a more offensive Space Force. And everything has been kicked off from now in Vandenberg Base, California, with a plan to launch up to 100 SpaceX Falcon 9 launches annually. Yes, you heard right. This is confirmed in the notice of the Department of the Air Force. The overall launch cadence for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy at both SLCs, Space Launch Complexes, combined, would be 100 launches per year. While the California Coastal Commission was busy throwing tantrums and citing Elon Musk's political views as a reason to restrict launches, the Pentagon decided to go ahead and do what it wanted. Talk about a slap in the face. Musk himself couldn't resist mocking the CCC's failure, quipping that the coastal Karens can go suck eggs. Ouch. So how did the commission respond to this epic humiliation? Spoiler alert, they didn't. They were so embarrassed that they couldn't muster a single word in defense of their ridiculous ruling. Instead of standing tall, they're probably huddled in a corner somewhere, contemplating their life choices while SpaceX rockets zoom overhead. More ridiculously, an X-user even adds to this humiliation by revealing that Commissioner Gretchen Newsom, one of Musk's most aggressive attackers, has since made her post hidden regarding the October announcement of the commission. What a shame! The move against Musk by Democratic officials has been the subject of criticism for some time. A SpaceX employee who is familiar with the story told on X, they cited environmental concerns, but after listening to the entire meeting, it was clear that this was not about the environment. I've compiled some clips from the meeting, and some of them are insane. How on earth are these people allowed to say lies and then regulate private companies? They are stopping progress for political or personal reasons and only care about themselves, not the good that these services provide. Indeed, the California Coastal Commission's decision to deny SpaceX's request to increase Falcon 9 launches is nothing more than a blatant display of personal and political bias. This ruling is not only ethically questionable, but also lacks any legal standing. They can approve or deny permits from private companies and individuals that affect the coast. It can't deny a federal activity. Although SpaceX is a private company, it's become a major launch provider for the U.S. military, which includes sending up spy satellites through SpaceX's Starshield program. More importantly, the U.S. Space Force has rightfully declared that the increase of SpaceX launches from Vandenberg is a federal matter of national security. It's no wonder that the U.S. Department of Defense, in collaboration with various departments like Homeland Security, Interior, Agriculture, and Justice, has chosen to completely override the CCC's laughable decision. They've granted SpaceX the green light to ramp up launch operations from Vandenberg Space Force Station, proving that the CCC's authority is about as relevant as a flip-flop in a snowstorm. Of course, the Department of the Air Force also needs to kick off a federal process to examine the environmental effects of expanding Falcon 9 launches from the base. The process calls for the U.S. military to hold meetings next month and give the public a chance to comment on the increased SpaceX activity. The goal is to conduct studies and publish a draft of the Environmental Impact Statement next spring before finalizing a decision in the fall. It's safe to say this success plays an important role not only for SpaceX, but also for the whole space industry. The first one is about the economic benefit. As you know, the advertised price for a Falcon 9 launch is around $62 million for commercial missions, though this can vary based on specific mission requirements. So if SpaceX increases to 100 launches per year at Vandenberg, its total revenue will be $6.2 billion annually from Vandenberg alone. This is truly incredible revenue growth, not to mention SpaceX's launches from other sites or other revenue streams like Starlink or other services. This amount of money would be used to invest more heavily in the Starship program and the infrastructure supporting it. Beyond that, by expanding the number of Falcon 9 launches, Vandenberg aims to maximize its capacity for the private sector. The military's move underscores a commitment to enhancing space launch capabilities while addressing national defense needs. The California Coastal Commission's decision to limit SpaceX launches poses a significant threat to national defense. The CCI's actions have inadvertently aligned with adversaries like China and Russia, undermining U.S. national security by restricting access to vital space capabilities. The U.S. has long recognized that maintaining a strong presence in space is crucial for both military and civilian operations, including weather monitoring and communications. With growing threats from adversaries capable of targeting satellites, the Space Force has adopted a strategy focused on resilience and proliferation, emphasizing the need for increased launch capabilities. Vandenberg is unique in its ability to launch into polar orbits without overflying populated areas, making it a strategic asset for the U.S. military. The Space Force plans to ramp up launches from Vandenberg from 50 to 100 annually to meet rising military and commercial demands, including support for humanitarian efforts. In fact, if you have been keeping up with SpaceX's news, the latest news would not take you much by surprise. The military's protection for SpaceX against CCC was shown clearly in October, amid the escalating tension between SpaceX and CCC. At that time, Space Force's Space Systems Command awarded SpaceX a $733.5 million contract to launch 9 missions to carry military satellites into orbit for the U.S. government. 6 of the launches are set to fly from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California as soon as late 2025, when SpaceX was denied a launch boost by the Commission. Simultaneously, Gavin Newsom, the Golden State governor, a Democrat who had previously many verbal fights with Elon on X, showed his supportive opinion of Elon Musk in the fight against the California Coastal Commission by saying, "I'm with Elon." Another good news is SpaceX is now building 2 landing pads at California's Vandenberg Space Force Base for Falcon Heavy. One of them is the SLC-6 launch complex to enable launches as early as 2025, allowing up to 50 West Coast missions annually. The next year or so will be full of interesting movement at this pad. SpaceX upgrading SLC-6 for 50 rocket launches annually manifests the company's glorious victory against the California Coastal Commission. Frankly, Vandenberg Space Force Base granted SpaceX permission to lease Space Launch Complex 6 for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launches on April 21, 2023. The agreement was signed by Colonel Rob Long, Space Launch Delta 30 Commander. SpaceX's purpose to take over this place is very clear. It's part of Space Launch Delta 30's launch pad allocation strategy, which evaluates the suitability of various launch sites for different types of rockets and payloads. This agreement is the first round of launch pad allocations, and additional rounds of allocations will occur in the future after further operational analysis. The process is critical to ensuring that launches are safe and that the selected launch site can accommodate the unique requirements of each mission. Clearly, SpaceX's advantage at Vanderberg will give the company an edge over rival United Launch Alliance in the competition for military contracts. In response, in a move to differentiate itself from SpaceX, ULA is proposing a new military application for its Vulcan Centaur rocket, a space interceptor capable of thwarting potential threats to U.S. assets in orbit. ULA CEO Tory Bruno positioned the Vulcan Centaur not just as a launch vehicle, but as a potential orbital deterrent against adversaries targeting Space Force assets. Bruno has long advocated expanded capabilities for the Centaur upper stage. In 2020, he outlined plans for an enhanced Centaur 5, featuring increased energy, thrust, and duration capabilities to enable complex trajectories and ambitious future missions. More recently, he has promoted a high-performance, long-duration version that could operate for days or weeks in support of U.S. military operations. The proposal comes as ULA seeks to regain ground lost to SpaceX in the military launch market. Once the dominant provider for U.S. military launches, ULA has seen its market share erode since SpaceX entered the field in 2015 with its cost-effective Falcon 9 rocket. The Vulcan Centaur, currently awaiting certification for national security space missions, features a first stage powered by two Blue Origin BE-4 engines and a second stage, Centaur 5, using an Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10 engine. Bruno suggests that with upgrades, the Centaur 5 could serve as a long-endurance vehicle for counterspace missions and a space interceptor. While conventional satellites move slow and deliberate in their motion, said Bruno, the enhanced Centaur could rapidly respond to developing threats. Bruno argued that the U.S. government should foster unique capabilities among launch providers rather than encouraging competition solely on price. There's going to be 3 heavy lift providers. There's going to be 2 medium lift guys, Bruno said, referring to the evolving landscape of the National Security Space Launch Program. Bruno suggested that the Space Force should look beyond just launch capabilities and pricing when selecting providers. There is unhealthy competition if you have businesses that are carbon copies of one another, he said. If you make them exactly the same, then in the business world, we call that a race to the bottom, he warned. The first company that hits scale above the other companies will then take over. And a couple of years later, you got a monopoly. And that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.